Bob Arum almost seemed proud with his association with Daniel Kinahan. I just got this Muta Baruka vibe about my voice today. You're going to have to deal with it, right? Well, he's cutting all ties with Kinahan now and MTK. Now, I'm not here to play judge and jury, but it seems the attempts of law enforcement and the Irish government and whoever else has tried to pin down Daniel Kinahan and his associates, their attempts have almost seemed half-hearted. But America is not to be fucked with. Now the American government are involved, shit looks real. Now we'll see how serious they are in the up and coming weeks if we see Daniel sunning himself in some Middle Eastern location smiling, business as usual. 5 mil to snitch him out and his associates. I tell you what, people will sing you out for that money like a Boys to Men concert. Now, the real test, well, apart from somebody ratting him out and they end up having to face trial, him and his associates, the real test is Bob going to be the only major player who flakes on Daniel? What happens to this pro-bellum thing? Richard Schaefer, the boxers. Are they going to stay loyal? Billy Joe Saunders, Tyson Fury, Michael Conlan, etc. What are they going to do? What will the likes of IFL TV do? They're sponsored by MTK. Now, I thought I'd go check out Nicola Tallant from the Sunday World. She's been after Daniel for a minute, an Irish journalist. And she's a very determined woman. And she had her smiley emojis out. And she's reported that boxer Michael Conlan wants image removed from MTK global website after Daniel Kinahan was sanctioned. A spokesman representing Michael Conlan, Olympic medal winning boxer, says he has no links to MTK or Hupo Sports, who were named by US authorities as a firm which will be hit with sanctions. Hey, is he going to be the only fighter to get his name removed from MTK Global's website? Conlan also said he was working to have his image removed from the website of Hupo business partners who are linked to Daniel Kinahan. Hupo are based in the United Arab Emirates, run by Ian Dixon from Dublin, who is an associate of Daniel Kinahan. I'm not going to go into all of it, but they're linking Kinahan, Ian Dixon, and Hupo into some drugs trafficking money. And of course, Michael Collins said he never heard of Ian Dixon until yesterday. Yeah, me neither, Mike, me neither. $5 million reward is a serious statement of intent. And that could be $5 million each cartel member that you can give up to the American government. I think that's how it runs. It's not just $5 million for the whole squad. Listen, they ain't paying out all that money, right? A lot of this is hot air. When I say hot air, they are serious about taking them down, but they're not paying out all this reward, right? The sanctions they're going to hit this organization with is going to immobilize, is designed to immobilize them. That's what we got to look for. It's going to take a long time to build a case on him. That's what I believe. I'm not saying he's going to get away and continue to get away. I don't know. But the best way to knock him down right now is to neutralize his operations. Take away the Bob Arums, the Richard Schaefers. These people have a lot of their business interests in the United States. They're not going to want to upset certain powerful people over there. So if they could take the associations away, the Tyson Furies, the Bob Arums, the Richard Schaefers, like Eurosport, if they bail on Pro Bellum, well, you no longer have a network to broadcast. That's how you do damage. That's how you do the initial damage. Turn him into a total outcast. Then he'll be more vulnerable to get caught. What America is trying to do, or what they will try, they're going to try and turn it into a culture of, rather than you seeing him taking pictures with Tyson Fury should be afraid to take pictures with him. Richard Schaefer, Sam Jones, who had a lot to say, will soon have to disassociate themselves away from him. If he wants to practice boxing as a promoter in this country and be good with the British Boxing Board of Control. Because, trust me, the British Boxing Board of Control, they're going to roll on Daniel. They're as formal as you get. If Sam Jones wants to practice promotion in Britain, he has to think about what he's saying.
We need that man in boxing, don't you think so? 100%. It's the question ask for yourself. Like, as I say, he's got no criminal convictions. I mean, we're talking about a man who has no criminal convictions. It's all what we saw on BBC. You know, it doesn't put boxing in a good light, but it's just a regurgitation of what's already been said about him. It was just a pointless exercise, if you ask me. That's just my opinion. I can only take people on face value. He's always been a very good man to me and always offered me the best of advice, and advice I take.
When it was Marbella Gym, MTK in Spain, in the early days, Ireland weren't interested because it wasn't affecting the landscape there. It wasn't showing up at the boxing shows, civilian life, or the criminal underworld or anything like that. America weren't interested when it was contained in Spain. But we heard the stories, you know, drug money. Didn't Jamie Moore get shot? There was a lot of stories. But when they started branching out, it hasn't been so easy. They were probably able to pay off whoever they had to pay off in Spain and do what they were doing. But when they got ambitious on some international shit, it's a different story, isn't it? It's going to get to a culture of where sponsorship is not going to go anywhere where they think you are Daniel Kinahan connected. They're not going to get anywhere near you. So Tyson's energy drink and anything else he's plugging out there get taken off the shelves. When Mauricio Sulaiman is talking all bohemian, like, I don't judge anybody, you know. I take everybody as I meet them. No. You're a grown man. Pick a side.
Just to let listeners know, when we talk about some of the US sanctions announced today, so that extends to US banks, financial institutions, companies. It's now illegal for them to do business with Kinahan gang members of the three businesses mentioned this morning. Any money the Kinahans have in the US or in US banks abroad can be blocked, their credit cards, debit cards frozen. For instance, they couldn't fly on a US airline now as the airlines are blocked from doing business with them. And I read in a piece this afternoon, I think it might have been your piece, Connor, Garda sources say the sanctions imposed on the Kinahans are the equivalent of some of those imposed on Russian oligarchs.
They're claiming I'm a criminal.
No, I've just been listening to the Irish channel discussing this topic, and the accent's kind of stuck me, so you're just going to have to deal with it and handle it the best way you can. Now, regardless of how this story plays out and resolves itself, Kinahan and those before him like Frankie Cabo, Blinky Palermo, the Mob, James Norris and the IBC, they managed to get a large foothold in boxing because there's no ruling governing body. It's very fractured and splintered. Not to say there's no corruption in other regulatory bodies covering other sports like FIFA. But we have to ask ourselves, is this the last time, if the accent starts to wear off a little, that we've seen the likes of Daniel Kinahan in boxing? Or are there going to be steps made to prevent someone under such scrutiny and accusations from getting such a foothold in the game? And, you know, like... the whole, I'm not associated with MTK. When Tyson Fury is managed by MTK, Tyson Fury blurted out that Daniel just sealed the deal for the 2-fight series with Anthony Joshua. Bob Arum was crediting him for his legwork in putting on some Michael Conlan fights. You know, and then, oh, you're not connected to Pro Bellum, and Sam Jones is pouring his heart out like he just lost his wife or something. It's just crazy. And then, you know, like, the Provisional Minister for Sports and Youth Affairs in Punjab, Pakistan, he wrote on Twitter in March, met at Pro Bellum on aligning vision on boxing for Punjab and how to make this sport bigger for our youth. Looking forward to hosting Daniel in Lahore to discuss Pakistan's first international fight with foreign world-class boxers, inshallah. We'll share more info in the upcoming weeks. You know, like, Kevin Ioli, I've got to do a little plagiarism if you don't mind. Kinahan's alleged crimes have nothing so far to do with boxing, but he's done millions of dollars worth of deals with promoters in the sport. The Treasury's Department Office of Foreign Asset Control announced sanctions on the Kinahans. As a result of today's action, all property and interests in property of the designated individuals or entities that are in the United States or in the possession of control of U.S. persons must be blocked and reported to the OFAC, the release noted. So there could be tough times ahead for many of the biggest names in boxing. Their assets may be scrutinized like never before. This is a story that won't go away soon.
And that's not good news for those who did, and particularly those who continue to do business with Kinahan. You see, if you're a businessman and you value what you do as a businessman, you can't have your name associated with murder and drugs when you try to pull off these big deals in the corporate world. I'm not saying they're squeaky clean either themselves, but this is just too big a news story for anyone who wants to be taken serious in the business world to be implicated in. So a lot of the people, you would have thought, unless they have something over them, they're going to bail. Of course they're going to bail. Pro Bellum, official statement, damage control taken very quickly. Pro Bellum responds to US Treasury sanctions. Now, they're taking the sanctions made by the US Treasury extremely seriously, and the business and its employees will be fully compliant with them. They claim they are not working with no individual or company that has been placed under US sanctions. This includes Daniel Kinahan, and we can confirm we will not have any business relationship or communication with him whatsoever. Bob Arum's comments implying that Top Rank has ceased a business relationship with Pro Bellum are baseless. Okay, when did Bob make these comments? Top Rank is a competitor, and since Pro Bellum's inception, any suggestion that Daniel Kinahan has been a shareholder or an owner are defamatory. That's what they're saying. Yo, they need to tell Sam Jones all this. Sam Jones has been seen pictured with him and then pining after him that we need him in boxing. Sam might find himself out of a job there. Yo, they're all rolling on Daniel. They're all rolling on him.
Sticking with Tyson Fury, obviously we've seen in the last 24 hours Daniel Kinahan, Tyson's advisor, somebody who's Eddie's been asked about previously, was sanctioned by the US government. I just wanted to get your reaction to that news.
Look, Matchroom as a business, has always worked with integrity and followed all laws and guidelines, and to be honest, at this time I'm not going to make any further comment on it.
Just one final one on it then. Does this change your stance on your relationship and working with Daniel moving forwards?
As I said, we follow all laws and guidelines, and I won't make any further comment on it myself.
Moving away from that then, Frank.
Frank weren't having it. His face changed to serious as soon as he heard Daniel Kinahan and sanctions. Wasn't having it. I wonder how Callie is going to swerve it, or Nice. Hey, I wonder what Adam Smith's got to say. A lot of his early signings, Savannah Marshall, Huey Fury, a few of them, Lewis Ritson, a lot of them came from MTK. I wonder what they've got to say. Emmanuel Adam Smith. Absolutely not. Me and Ben Shalom, we act in total integrity. We've never even seen Daniel Kinahan before. I'm totally offending by your line of questioning. He's lucky that whoever handles FONDURA's business probably doesn't take YouTube that serious. Or some of you would end up in court. On the real. You cannot prove that FONDURA used bricks or anything, PEDs, or did anything illegal to beat up Erickson Lubin. You can't prove it. Lubin's management are not saying that nobody collected FONDURA's gloves. They're not saying anything underhanded went on. Kevin Cunningham, he ain't saying anything. If he took anything illegal, it hasn't come up in any previous tests. And if it comes up in any future tests, fair enough. But until then, you gotta leave this shit alone. Your man got beaten up. My man got beaten up. I like Lubin, but he got beaten up. Gotta take your L's. That's one of the worst characteristics about a lot of people who follow boxing I've noticed online. You support fighters, but you can't take your L. You just can't take your L. Herald. That's my old man. I mean, my brother's name Herald. I'm spelled with an E. I mean, when my dad says it's spelled with an H. Herald. Herald Spence. I'm a watch out for the PBC Ring Rust, Ring Rust Herald. One fight in the last 2 years, my boy. I fight one skillful Cuban boxer. Risky. As an uploader, looking at this ring rust thing has got me almost automatically looking at both the BoxRec profiles for both fighters and looking at their ring rust ratio. It can change depending on circumstances, but I normally look at the last couple of years, 2 years and a half perhaps. UGAS has had 3 fights in the last 2. Spence has 1. 3 fights is a good ratio for a PBC fighter. I'm not foreseeing an early stoppage. I'm not. I can perhaps foresee early in the fight who's going to win though. UGAS may like to collect data and then pick it up gradually. Can he afford to? Does he need a quick start? I believe if Spence looks sluggish early, he doesn't recover. That's what I believe. He doesn't recover. If he gets into a rhythm quickly, then his chances of winning increase. Good fight. On the down low, I'm hating it a little. I would prefer, well, I would like to see Terence Crawford in these type of unifications, but maybe he's got his time to come. DILLIAN makes a couple of tweets, announces his arrival, the latest round of drug testing from the clean boxing program. Both men have passed, flying colours, so far so good. I'm rooting for DILLIAN to pull off the upset. It can be done, he's got the power. David Hay, he's picking DILLIAN, citing that he's a naturally bigger man than Deontay and himself. He has the power, he has a solid base, good fundamentals, good combinations. Could be the best offensively gifted fighter Tyson has faced. I say that Vlad is a great fighter, but he's never threw a body shot, except when he beat up Wilder. Apparently he was dropping him with body shots. It's hard to believe now. A lot of times you saw Vlad holding on, clinching excessively, throwing a jab, a right hand, stealing punches, then gripping on again. While DILLIAN is looking to put punches together to hurt you, put his punches together. And he's got to take chances. And he will take chances, and that's what makes him dangerous. He's definitely a live dog. Definitely a live dog. Gypsy King will go in favourite, no doubt about that. But I don't have Tyson like an overwhelming favourite by any means. Looking forward to it. Contrary to what you might think, to see Tyson in fights like this, I have nothing but respect for him, no doubt. When I see Tyson Fury doing the right thing, taking on his mandatories, I want to watch him. He's a good fighter to watch. I'm going to pay for the pay-per-view. I expect a great performance from Fury. And DILLIAN has it to do. He does have it to do. Looking at their activity status, they've both had 2 fights since 2019. 1 fight apiece in 2020 and 2021 against the same opponent. Obviously, DILLIAN's fought Alexander Povetkin twice with mixed results, getting knocked out in the first one and then winning the rematch. While Tyson Fury has scored 2 stoppage victories over Deontay Wilder. Who's the fresher coming out of them fights? Tyson Fury did sustain some damage in that last fight, and DILLIAN was knocked out in 2020. Even though he came back at Povetkin like a crazy man, like it never happened. Is there any carryover that we need to worry about from either man? There definitely is an argument that Tyson's punch recovery at elite level is probably the best in the division. He hasn't got hit by the likes of DILLIAN and AJ, who are not only bangers. See, Wilder's a banger, but DILLIAN and AJ are combination punchers. So they're saying this could be Fury's last fight, and he's planning to shock the fans with his appearance at the weigh-in. Now, he said he was going to come in heavier than ever, but he's working with this nutritionist named George Lockhart, who has worked with Conor McGregor, and they say they're trying to get Fury's nutrition perfect for the fight against White. Apparently he struggled in the Deontay Wilder camp, but he still managed to get the job done. He weighed in 277 for Wilder, and he's threatened to come in, not threatened, but claimed he could come in over 300 pound for a fight. He was 273 for the second Wilder fight, and I believe he was in the 250s for the first fight. Are they looking to go back to the 250s? Now, they're trying to keep everybody guessing what the shock would be. Lockhart said he's already done the losing 30 pounds in 30 days. He's done that before. There's a reason I've been out here for almost 4 months. I'll leave it at that. I don't know about all this Lockhart shit because, you know what I mean? Yeah, you train Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor gets beat up regular, right? So I don't know about all that. I don't know much about MMA. I do know that the continuous yo-yo dieting from Fury will catch up with him eventually. I don't care what the nutritionist does. If you bring Tyson in at 260 with his aging metabolism and he performs anywhere near how he did against Otto Wallin, the belt could be gone. Unless they're using some illegal science to get him down to them weights, he will struggle. All the yo-yo dieting and the time he's missed out, I said eventually it would catch him up. This is why I think he wants to get out of the game. If he comes in too heavy, all he can do is slug. If he comes in too light, his body will be weakened. He won't be able to keep up movement for 12 rounds, in my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see. You know, if he does retire, is 5 world title fights enough to put him up there with the greats? Not in my opinion, it's not. And if he loses, I don't think there's going to be a retirement, because you know how these fans, these fair weather fans, you can be the greatest at one stage because you haven't lost. One loss, and they look at you totally different. Like, I heard some people just trashing Michael Conlan the other day when he said he was taking his name off the MTK list. It doesn't matter anyway, he's finished. One loss. I think the skills could play a key part in this battle between Dillian and Fury. Like, Dillian said he's going to come in around 18 and he's not going to let Tyson push him around. Tyson, he said he's going to come in at his heaviest weight, and now apparently he could be coming in light with George Lockhart, the nutritionist. I don't think Tyson's weight is no big mystery of what he comes in like. There's a couple of options. Like I said, you come in too light, there's issues. You come in too heavy, there's issues. I believe Tyson Fury is at a vulnerable stage of his career. If Dillian just focuses on what he's going to do and how he's going to do it, the result could be interesting. Wow, what happened to the Andy Ruiz Luis Ortiz fight? That looked like it was penciled in to go. But Andy Ruiz is fighting Tyrone Spong. Spong was supposed to fight Usyk a few bars back, but that didn't materialize. I think he was eventually exonerated from an adverse finding, but by that time he was replaced by Chaz Witherspoon and he lost his big opportunity. Probably more of a bridger weight than, may I say, fully fledged heavyweight. He's 14-0, 13 stoppages. Hasn't fought since 2019. A 2-round knockout over Jason Minder. He resides in Miami, born in Suriname, and is a resident of Holland. A lot going on there, Tyrone, a lot going on there. Why so inactive is the question. Why so inactive? Andy, he's been pretty inactive himself. One fight since the AJ points defeat in 2019. What's going on here? Andy Ruiz versus Tyrone Spong tops TRILLER card. So what's happened to the PBC deal? It's not on the PBC? TRILLER and Fight Club. So is he done with the PBC? What's going on over there? Everybody's talking about Errol Spence and the coded message, take the L out of lover, it's over. With the PBC, what's going on? TRILLER Fight Club. Eddie Hearn, he gave up on the Andy Ruiz Derek Chisora fight because he heard the Andy Ruiz Luis Ortiz fight is in the works. So he could have took the Derek Chisora fight because, as far as I know, Derek still hasn't got a dance partner. He's been looking for a fight everywhere. He's asked Andy. Who else did he ask? He asked a few people to come over there. This is crazy, man. You rather go with TRILLER to fight Tyrone Spong than fight Derek Chisora on what could be a pay-per-view in the UK? This is crazy. They can even hold it in America on a Matchroom card, because if you can go over to TRILLER, you can go over to Matchroom, surely. Unless there's some unwritten rule that we just squeeze Eddie out of all fights over there. Luis Ortiz is a bum. I'm not talking about his skill set or anything, but, you know, this guy backed out of his eliminator, his final eliminator with Hrgovic, claiming a hand injury. Then all of a sudden it's all healed up and he wants to fight AJ for the lucrative pension bag. Now Andy Ruiz is building him, and there he is twiddling his thumbs. No fight date penciled in or nothing. It was less than 2.5 years ago. Andy Ruiz was unified champion of the world with 3 straps. And he was supposed to go on to be a star, even if he lost the AJ rematch, which he did. Instead, he ends up in a fight with, let's just keep it real, gatekeeper Chris Arreola. Struggled in that, got hurt a couple of times, pay-per-view numbers bombed, bailed out on the Ortiz fight to be fighting Tyrone Spong on TRILLER. Something's gone wrong, and Andy needs to sit down and evaluate and think exactly what went wrong. What went wrong?